ability to understand how it works, to understand how it works.
Q-tape. Possibilities network. And 3, 2, 1. Live from Indianapolis, Indiana, this is the iPad Possibilities Show. With your host, Tim Chapman, and co-host, Ryan Anderson.
Welcome to the iPad Possibilities Podcast. This is episode number 31, 3G Possibilities, and I'm here with John. How are you doing today, John?
Good, Tim. How are you doing?
Doing really well. It's been a fun weekend playing with the 3G iPad.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing all about it.
Well, before we get onto it, I'd like to first recognize the It's On My Way application. It was on sale. Is that still over now, John, I believe?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
it's over today.
Okay. But they just won. It was on sale a couple days ago for the 3G launch, and I've been using it quite a bit recently. I actually recently picked up a camera connection kit for the iPad, and they allowed me to buy two. So sold one of those on eBay, and I don't go to UPS that often, so I actually used it to go to UPS and the grocery store on the way back home in a much faster route than I normally travel. So that was a great use case I had for it this week as I was selling that accessory for the iPad, which sold for amazing $80. Just because they're so hard to get right now, I guess.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's exactly the kind of thing the app is great for, is going to those places you don't often go to.
Yeah.
And you want a real efficient way of getting there.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Excellent.
Cool. Well, I'd like to just, before we move on to the rest of this show, make one quick, important announcement. I've noticed, as pointed out by one of the listeners, that the audio that I export the show in is quite a bit lower than it needs to be to sound good. It has a lot of artifacts and stuff due to the compression. That started when I started doing the mono shows, and I didn't take a moment to look at what it actually does to it. So I've, over this weekend, I actually re-encoded all 30 episodes to a much higher format. It's still mono, but much higher format, so it'll actually sound good. So those will be start appearing in they'll be basically replacing the episodes on there right now. So if you want to re-listen to the older episodes, they'll sound much better. And I just wanted to make that announcement so everyone knows that's happening, and you can re-listen to the shows and they'll sound better.
Wow, Tim, that was quite a task to go back all 30 shows and do that.
It took basically all Saturday night was just re-encoding all those episodes, because it takes a long time, because it's really 60 episodes, because I do AAC with some enhanced chapter stuff and MP3, so it was really 60 episodes, and it was pretty much all Saturday getting that finished. I want to move on to sort of a hardware review of the week. I was at the Apple Store, and I wanted to pick up another case, as I now have one iPad that I use mainly at home now, and then I have one that I use on the road. And for the home one, I wanted to try out that in-case convertible book jack is what they call it. And it's a much thicker case. And I thought it'd be a perfect case for home use, because that's when you don't need a really sleek-looking case. You need something that's more sturdy, I guess, and all of that. So I wanted to just take a moment to give you my impressions on it, and for the video, I'll have some footage of it here. But I have here the in-case convertible book jacket, and as you can probably see, it's a lot thicker here than the Apple case. And when you put it in, it's pretty simple. You just pop it in there. A couple quick downers of it. I just want to start off. As you can see, the iPad has no protection here. So the first problem I ran into this was in the kitchen. I did not feel really comfortable. Actually, how did I? There was one moment where I had this, where it actually rested on, I guess this wasn't a problem. I figured I was resting it on the counter, which is quite dirty, but it does not appear to be a problem that I thought it was. But overall, it works really well. It is, I guess, harder to instantly prop up than the Apple case. The Apple case there's just one setting, right, to get it propped in place. And it's very easy to do that. It's within 1 second, it's propped in place as I'm doing now. And you're able to do that I use Apple Case for, horizontal video watching like this. And then I also use it down for typing. With the in-case, it's much more of a process to get it propped up without falling over or whatever. And, it's good for if you're just doing stationary stuff, if you leave it at your desk all day or leave it by your bedside all day. It's good for that. But I found it harder to be moving around a bunch with the iPad because of the design of it. I did notice typing on it was actually a pretty good experience because, there's some bounce to it. Versus the Apple Case, there's no give to it. I like the give. It felt more natural to do that. And
Tim, Tim, did you find that the ability to vary the angle was that useful?
I actually did. Not as much as I thought I would, because with the Apple Case, so with the in case, as you can see in this video, you've got 3 different notches, and you can change the height of it. What I found is I like to use my iPad in 2 different settings, and I discovered those settings with Apple's lovely designed case. I use the Apple Case as, with the regular typing mode, I guess is what you call it, the propped up mode. And then I also use it like this, where I've got it like that for video watching. And I found those are the best 2 settings to use a case with it. With the in-case one, I found I try to emulate that completely propped up position like that, but the Apple Case really does it better. It gets more sturdy. The 3rd notch is not truly vertical, so in some cases I did not like that at all. And then I use the completely down one a lot. So the different settings is nice, but I think the Apple Case still does it better. And I believe the Apple Case is still the best one on the market, but that's a sad statement because I think case makers can do a lot better than they have. I think the pitfalls of this one is obviously the thickness, which I guess in a house would probably be a good thing because it's less prone to get damaged if your kids are playing with it and they drop it, because there is much more padding there. That's why I do say this is a great home case because it is more protected and you don't care about bulk as much at home. It does feel weird how this is just open at the end here. So I'd give it a plus review, a good review for home use, not so good if you want to use it on the road. And I think the Apple Case is still a better case. This feels more quality of material, but the thickness gets to it, and the ability to prop up quickly is the plus of the Apple Case. This it's harder to quickly move around with the Apple Case, or with the in case, because with the Apple Case I like to just leave it in the propped up position all the time. And with the in case, you get to re-prop it up every single time you move around, is what I found. So that's my briefly, I hope brief, overview of the in-case convertible book jacket. It is $60, $20 more than the Apple Case. And that's what my impressions were on it.
The material there, Tim, is that, can you comment on how that compares to the Apple Case?
Yeah, the material is... it feels like a fake leather, I guess, where the Apple Case is... I'm not sure how to describe the Apple Case. For those that have it, it feels... I don't know. Can you describe it, John?
I kind of would call it a cross between neoprene and suede.
Yeah.
It's not as thick as neoprene, not anywhere close to as thick as neoprene, but it's kind of a rubbery suede kind of feeling.
Yeah, and I'd like the feel of the Apple Case. It's actually better than this. I think with Apple products, I've noticed I like to use the iPad out of the case just because I feel the aluminum. And I think this material, the Apple Case, is the one material that most closely emulates that aluminum as far as that smooth material that you want to be touching all day. Versus this is... It looks better, it looks more official. It actually looks like a book when it's in here, but yeah, they're both good cases. I'd recommend the Apple Case as your main case, and then this one as a secondary case if you can afford to $60 secondary case.
Yeah, I'm going to be trying out one or two additional cases in the next couple weeks, Tim. So I'll make sure to review that for our folks.
Awesome. And yeah, there's the thickness comparison. I've got both iPads there. As you can see, quite a bit thicker.
Really? Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So, yep. And I'm hoping to get in some Waterfield design cases. I've been in contact with them. They're just so swamped right now with other PR stuff that they haven't had time yet. But hopefully I'll get the Waterfield whole ensemble of cases in and let you guys know how all those turn out. Because that's a company I really love. I use it with other products I have.
So now you're a 2 iPad person, huh, Tim?
Yeah. Yep. I had the Wi-Fi one I was intending to return, but after that 14-day return went by, I decided. Well, I actually got in a situation where I had more money than I thought I'd have, and decided to hang on to both of them. And it's quite the luxury, but I found it incredibly useful because with 2 iPads, I found myself using Netflix on one or some other way of viewing content, and then I'm on the iPad, looking up stuff or creating content, and it's like having a second monitor, basically.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, so I think, with generations 2 and 3, people will start to have more than one iPad, and they'll find, wow, you can do a lot more since I have 2 screens now.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually been looking for a case maker that holds 2 different iPads at the same time. I've been successful so far.
Unfortunately, I think you're in a very, very narrow audience of users. Yeah. So that's probably going to be a while before they get a case maker to start making cases.
Yeah, only a select few would probably run in that situation. But Leo Laporte or Scott Bourne probably has a vest of iPads,
Yeah.
But yeah, hopefully there will be a day when people start making that. I was looking for custom case makers and have not found any besides custom logos on the back or whatnot.
Right. Yeah.
So that's the In-Case Convertible Book Jacket. Send emails or audio questions, and I'll be happy to answer those on that. It is a great case, but not for everybody, I would imagine. Any other comments on the In-Case case or cases in general?
There certainly seems to be a lot of them coming out, and I know I'm pretty particular about my cases, and I'm actually going to potentially be traveling a bit more here in the near future, and so case is going to be more important to me for work. Yeah. So I will be doing quite a bit of research on cases here over the next few weeks.
Yeah. My disappointment has been there's a lack of cases that prop up and do it well. I think the Apple case is the best one that gives you that propped up use case of it, and that's really what I want a case for. And the In-Case convertible book jacket was pretty much the only one I found with a kind of a similar Apple style of doing that, but yeah. The cases have been a bit of a disappointment so far, so hopefully now that the iPad is out and case makers have it, they'll start making some good cases.
Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to when one of them comes out with a case that will not only let you prop up the iPad, but has a natural place for the wireless keyboard to sit.
Yeah, and that's something I forgot to mention with the In-Case convertible book jacket. It gives you sort of a ledge depending on how you have it propped up. And I found that incredibly useful in holding, like I've got an iPhone that I just have down there on that ledge by my bedside, and that ledge is helpful. You could actually put the Bluetooth keyboard there if you wanted. But I'd love a case that is designed to have that Bluetooth keyboard there and like a pseudo laptop case,
Yeah, I remember one for the Newton message pad years ago that you could actually unzip it and use the keyboard, and the message pad was propped at the right angle to view it.
Yeah, I remember seeing pictures of those as well. And I saw some prototypes of people trying to do this with the Bluetooth keyboard and the Apple iPad, and they're still prototypes, I guess, but... it'll be interesting to see what happens the next few months. I'm sure casemakers will start to innovate now that they have it.
Well, and now with 3G out and people actually, using it more, moving around,
Right.
we'll definitely have more of a call for it, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, cool. Let's move on to what I call use cases of the week. These are things that I did not, that I've started to use iPad for that I haven't in the past. So the first one I had was earlier today, we actually, Eric Pullum and myself, we do another show called Today in Success, and we actually recorded that entire week of daily shows on the iPad with my Yeti Blue microphone via that new camera connection kit. And we used an app called Speakeasy 2, which was designed for the iPhone, but it worked really well with that USB mic. And I was able to just sit on the couch with the mic in the center, and we were able to just record the shows. And it sounded great. I actually listened to them, and they turned out really well.
That's great to hear. I was very excited to hear that the camera connection kit picked up USB mics. And I understand that with the Yeti, it also gives you the USB output.
Yeah, exactly.
Back through the mic.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, so that's a great thing. Portable podcasting is now a real deal.
Yeah, my real call out is to developers is there is not a single good iPad, GarageBand type replacement app, and I desperately want one. Right now it's just recording audio, and I need my Mac still to edit, and I think there's a big opportunity there for developers to write a really good app because there aren't any yet.
Yeah, I'm amazed, and partially it's because of working with you and seeing all this music stuff associated with the iPad. It has just been really big in music and the whole audio world, and I expect we'll see a lot more in that coming out.
Yeah, I hope so, because I could imagine myself at like some podcast, conference or something, doing a live show there, and I just want to bring my iPad and edit, record, do all that there, and it's lacking right now. I hope that changes in the next few months at least.
Yeah, great. Well, that's good to hear, and I've been actually on the verge of buying a Blue Yeti mic, and so now that I know it'll work with the iPad, I think I will.
Yeah, it doesn't draw too much power in it. I mean, they sound good. The recordings are pretty impressive. And the mic I can't recommend anymore. It's just fantastic. It's, yeah. Let's see. Another thing about USB audio was, I thought of this earlier today when my dad was asking about that USB audio and the mic and all of that. To my knowledge, there's some USB speaker systems that are 5.1. Now, what this means is, I'm not sure if Netflix streams 5.1 movies, but I would imagine stuff that you sync to your iPad could. So you could potentially have a 5.1 surround sound experience with the iPad now because of that connection kit.
Yeah. It's all kinds of interesting audio things. I guess it will really be limited by the types of drivers that you're going to find on the iPad.
Right.
And so it'll be interesting as people try to exploit this capability of the camera connection, whether Apple will bring the hammer down on people trying to put more drivers onto the iPad, or whether they'll let it go.
Yeah, I'm excited. The 3G jailbreak, we'll be talking about it later, but 3G, or just the iPad in general being jailbroken, you have this VGA output now, you have this USB port basically now with a jailbreak. I don't know how crazy it'll get, but I think it could get pretty crazy with what the iPad will be able to do versus the iPhone, just because of all these new accessories that really could enable iPad to do so much more. Yeah.
Now, is the jailbreak really real? I mean, it's been announced, but I heard it wouldn't be available for a couple months yet.
It's real. It's been demonstrated. It's an over-the-air jailbreak, actually. So you have to go to a website, and it'll jailbreak your iPad or iPhone. But for whatever reason, they're holding off the jailbreak. I think the reason was they want to give people time to back up some file that they need or something like that. But hopefully in the next week or so it'll be out, and I'll be jailbreaking my 3G iPad, so I have...
Now, due to my security background,
Yep.
I'm going to have to put a disclaimer here.
Yes.
And the reason is that over-the-air jailbreaks are probably the riskiest kind for the user to involve in, because once you go out there to a website and say, yes, go ahead and do what you want to my iPad,
Yep.
you never know what they've done and what they've left behind after that.
Sure.
So, or what information they may have culled from your iPad while you're in the midst of doing it. So
right.
I would just be very cautious before anybody went out and did that, and I would certainly make sure there was no information on my iPad that I didn't care that the rest of the world got a hold of.
Yeah, sure.
So, any pictures of on your iPad that you don't want out there, I'd make sure they were not on your iPad if you go to that jailbreak site.
Yeah, I know they had this for the
clear caches if you've gone to banking sites or anything. Just make sure that you need to be really safe when you go out to the internet to do something risky like that.
Sure. Yeah, I agree, and I'll be doing the jailbreak on the 3G. And they had an over-there iPhone one like this a while back, but it obviously does not work anymore. And I remember people had to go to the Apple store and jailbreak them right there. I don't know why, but they did.
Yeah. So there will always be a segment of the user community that wants to do something different.
Yeah.
And so that's what jailbreaking is for. But make sure that you know what you want it for, and obviously you, Tim, you're going to be exploring the outer edges of iPad possibilities.
I'll leave one of them non-jailbroken and one with jailbreak. So I'll have both worlds at the same time. Yeah.
So, well, good. So we'll see how that works.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what they do with it, because it's unknown territory right now what they can do with the jailbreak. I could see a lot of possibilities emerge from that. But I want to move past that. Jailbreak's not out yet, and we don't even know what it'll do when we do it. Except for I do know 3G will be unrestricted once it happens, which is the main reason I'm looking forward to it. ABC over 3G and all those things we'll talk about when we get to the 3G section of the show. The other use case I experienced was Victor Kakiao, the typical Mac user and typical Shutterbug, last week had basically a big Skype party with 19 different people, I think was the max we hit. And Skype sounded great even with 19 people. But the cool thing is 3 or 4 of those people were using iPads to actually get on Skype. And the more amazing thing than that is they were using the built-in speaker and the built-in mic to get on to Skype and talk with us. And the even more amazing thing after all of that is the sound quality sounded pretty much as good as a headset or something like that. It was amazing. I'm not sure how that happened. Perhaps with the mic on one end and the speaker on the bottom, that's how that happened. But it sounded great. There was no lag or anything. It was fantastic.
That's great.
I'm just looking forward to when Skype actually updates for the iPad and we don't have to use that silly iPhone app on there.
Yeah, it's amazing how much audio works so well in this device. The only criticism I've heard anybody say is that that they wish that the speaker wasn't all on one side because they can't get any stereo separation.
Yeah.
And it kind of, and when you turn it on its side, it's off to the left or the right, and a little awkward sometimes viewing a movie. But we expect the sound to come more from straight on than from one side or the other. But
I haven't even thought of that. I mean, they could potentially put 2 sets of speakers in a future iPad. They learn how to make them small enough.
Yeah.
Not sure if they'd ever do that though.
But great sound out of this little tiny space that they have for the speaker at the bottom.
Yeah, certainly. I'm impressed with the speaker. I used it in the car because it is loud enough to listen to music on. So I've
done that once or twice as well. I'm used to listening to music in the car on on my headphones in my iPhone. And, it's like there was one time I forgot my cable and I was running low on battery, and I said, well, I'm just gonna run it on I have it on the iPad, I might as well play it on the iPad, and just had it sitting in the seat next to me playing along.
Yeah. Oh, mentioning batteries, actually, I've got let me see if I have it on hand. Let's see. It does not look like I have it, but I have the HyperMac Mini, which is basically an external battery pack for the basically USB devices. And it currently doesn't charge the iPad, but I actually emailed them, and they're actually going to send me a replacement in June. I actually have to talk to them, and we'll swap them out. And that'll now work with the iPad come June. They're actually upgrading those. And for those,
excellent.
So for those that purchased any of those HyperMac batteries that work with your iPhones or whatnot, if you email them, they're more than happy to switch those out come June, as far as I know. So that was a big relief to me, as I just purchased that in February or March.
Excellent. Those are supposed to be excellent batteries, and
yeah, they are. That's what helps me run my Mi-Fi pretty much all day, because that's such a powerful battery that you have.
Great.
Well, cool.
Yeah.
Let's move out of use cases into. I actually received a question today by I believe his name is Chris. And he has a question about just simply writing a paper on the iPad. He's got a paper where he needs to link together 3 different components. I'm not going to go through that whole paper with you all, but he needs to write about 500 to 750 words and explain how the components fit together. And he's without a laptop right now, so he's going to be using the iPad to do all of this. And he's asking some advice on moving forward with how to get off and running and writing a paper with this, with Pages, basically. So I had some basic advice. I'd love if you could add some onto this after I finish what my thoughts were on this. First off, I'd suggest if you could simply start with a basic outline and basically know what you want to write before you start up. And then the next step would simply be to enter all your text, create the content with a Bluetooth keyboard or the on-screen keyboard if you don't have that. And then after that, just format it to get your last name and page number. You can do that with Pages through the page layout setups materials in there, and do all the special bolding and italics and all of those different things. And then just read through it and do any final edits, and then send it to iWork.com to print it off from any computer. Or if your professor accepts emails, just email them a PDF and a Word document, and you should be good to go. So did you have any other thoughts, John? Did that sound pretty...
Yeah, I think that's probably the great way to go. And I would emphasize your first step there, which is really outlining. Personally, I don't think Pages is the best kind of tool to outline with. And
yeah, I agree.
He might look for something else. I know there's I haven't used it myself, but Idea Sketch in the App Store is a free app for brainstorming and outlining, and it works on both the iPhone and the iPad, and would probably be a good thing to give it a shot to see whether that could help you actually put a good structure to the document together before you try to tackle it with Pages.
Yeah, I know for outlining, I use OmniGraffle just because I like visual outlining, but I can't wait for Omni Outliner to come out. And then I also, you could probably just do a paper outline for the outline. I mean, that would be a possibility too if you want to go old school like that.
Sure.
And that way you'd also have the outline so you could view both at once. My other suggestion was in a future where you do have 2 iPads, if that ever happens with the next generation, you can have one iPad there to display your content, your information, your outline, whatever it is, and then use the other iPad to create the content with Pages. And another suggestion for if you're actually needing to jump between Safari and Pages, if you want to go without an outline and try to do that, I'd suggest having Pages and Safari both in the dock so you can quickly jump between the 2 apps or whatever app you're using to view the content.
Yeah, another thing I might mention is that, did you say it was Chris?
Yes.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So Chris should probably really, he says he's without a laptop. I don't know if that means he has absolutely no access to any other computers, but I'm assuming he's in school. Maybe there's some, computers that he can access at the school. So, so he should definitely think about, using emailing himself, a way to get partially printed out stuff during that. You mentioned iWork.com as one way of doing that, but certainly, make sure that he kind of, before he gets through with this whole paper, that he's worked through how he's going to get it to his professor, maybe.
Yeah.
So that he doesn't wait till the last moment to do that and find that he forgot something, or there's something that will keep him from doing that.
Yeah, I've actually written 2 papers on the iPad so far. They're my last 2 papers I need to do for school, and wrote them both on using Pages. And the later one, I actually had the Bluetooth keyboard just sitting on my lap in bed with the iPad on a stand next to my bed, and just started typing and got all the content out. It was a great experience. It was one of the most enjoyable experiences I've had writing a paper. And iWork.com worked really well. I was able to just export it there and print it off from any computer, and it works great. I did have a problem trying to do that with some professor using Windows had some sort of problem printing a PDF or whatever it was, but it's been working pretty well. Let's jump into, it's funny, the main content of this show, as we've been going quite a while with some other topics, which have been great. But the 3G iPad has been released, and everyone got those on Friday. I waited anxiously as it took till noon to get mine. And I talked to the Apple store here in Indianapolis, and they had a pretty big launch is what they were telling me. It was super packed on Saturday when I went to pick up the in-case case. And I just wanted to point out some interesting things to note. First off, the box you get it in, I was very surprised, is the same box pretty much. So they give you the same white box, and the only difference is instead of the storage size, 16 gigabytes for this one, they now say 16 plus, like they've got both there, 16 gigabytes, or in this case 64, and 3G. So I was impressed that they actually used pretty much the same box. I thought they'd separate those out so it's easier for the Apple staff to kind of sort through them as they're selling them. And then on the iPad themselves, the only difference is the black bar. There's not even an indication 3G on the back of it. So that was kind of something interesting I thought I'd note out.
So nothing at all on the unit itself other than the piece of plastic on the back.
Yeah, that's it. The black bar is it. There's no nothing that says 3G on the back, which is kind of odd. Yeah. And really, I don't... When you have a case on, you don't see the 3G on there at all. And something cool is with the iPad 3G, you're actually able to turn off the data, connect the cell data or whatever you want to call it. And when you do that, it turns back to the iPad up in the top left instead of AT&T. So you can have it look exactly like a Wi-Fi iPad if you want to, which I do sometimes.
So my first question for you is, have you noticed any difference in the Wi-Fi capabilities of the 3G versus the normal non-3G?
Sure.
As far, because a number of people have said that they felt like the Wi-Fi was a little weak.
Yeah. I haven't ran into any issues on the 3G model, and I have ran into some issues on the Wi-Fi. So I can't give any conclusive, this is better with Wi-Fi than this one. But I haven't had as many problems with Wi-Fi. To my experience, I've only had it this weekend and haven't used Wi-Fi that much. I've been playing around with the 3G, which is why my plan's almost up. So I went with the 250 megabyte plan, and I can very easily say doing video streaming with 3G on 250 megs, it'll run out really quickly. So yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of interesting. One thing is the comments that AT&T has made about the plan. A lot of people criticize them, and they said that they felt that because you also get access to all the AT&T hotspots,
Right.
And so they felt like most people would be running those movies when they were connected over Wi-Fi and not over 3G. But obviously, we don't all act the way AT&T expects us to act.
Yeah.
So that's good to know, and I'll be curious because people have been reading different things into AT&T's contract. So, at first it seemed like if you had the 250 megabyte plan, you could just expand it into the unlimited for the difference in price for that thing. And didn't think so. You essentially start a brand new month's worth of service when you change, right?
Plans, yeah. So it would cost $45 to total for that 1 month of you. Or
if you use it up, like you did, you use it up in 2 days. It's
yeah. I got the 15% warning already. I was streaming another podcast had a video show, and I was streaming that over 3G on Safari, and it worked really well until I got that signal, and then I switched over to my MiFi, which I stupidly wasted my basically 3G 250 megs when I had a MiFi sitting right there with unlimited data that I could have used.
Well, that's interesting because that makes that plan while it's very convenient, it still means that AT&T gets you a little harder when
I mean, you have to be conscious of how you use the 250 megs if you're doing that plan. I think you could do a lot with web surfing that way. You could do a lot with email, Twitter. You could still do a lot. You just can't download a bunch of audio shows from iTunes or stream a bunch of video. But if you steer clear of those two problem areas, I'd say you're fine. And
for some people, that's great because they may never do anything besides email and Twitter when they're not at home or at a Wi-Fi spot.
Right. And I say that the $30 is a bargain. I think the biggest possibility the iPad 3G brings to people is you finally have the ability to have mobile broadband to the masses, right? Because it's finally cheap data in comparison to it's either like $60 or $40 for data on other services. And that's the biggest possibility I see because finally we have $15 or $30 for data. And that's groundbreaking. It really is.
Well, it definitely is. And it's essentially what we've been paying on our iPhones.
Yeah.
But we don't use it as much as we really want to because we don't get as much out of a tiny screen. Now we have a big screen attached to the same data plan. And
and you have to pay for voice. That's one thing I've always wanted. I've always wanted to buy an iPhone with just a data plan, and they don't allow that. So I'd love if they release an iPod Touch like the iPad. If it's just give me a data plan with the iPod Touch. I'm kind of curious to see if they'd ever do that. That might be kind of risky on Apple's part to do that.
That reminds me of a rumor I heard last week that somebody said that Apple will bring out an iPad that's a 5 to 7 inch range.
Oh yeah.
And and a lot of people are like, "Well, what do you need that for? You got the iPad and you got the iPhone or the iPod Touch." And quite frankly, I think that little bit extra is really useful, and it's still much more pocketable than an iPad, right?
Yeah, I mean, I find myself carrying around the iPad all the time, as it's just in my hands. But it definitely doesn't fit in the pocket. And I think a 5 to 7 inch, you could fit that in some cargo pants or a pocket or two,
Yep.
So, yeah, I'd love to see a smaller iPad come out. I'd also like to see a larger screen iPad come out. So, I mean, I'd like to see what Apple does with this over the next few years, see how it evolves, and see what happens with everything.
So have you, I know a lot of people were wondering what 3G would do to the battery life. Have you seen much difference in the battery life?
I have not had enough time to test it through its paces, but I can, to Apple's documentation, they've been pretty accurate. It just drains it an extra hour, and that's what has been reported on the forums I've been reading, that if they do stress tests, they'll get 9 hours instead of the 10 hours that you get from the Wi-Fi. So, and that's with Wi-Fi turned off and 3G turned on. So I guess an extra hour lower, so 9 hours instead of 10 if you want to go by Apple's. And it's been pretty accurate to that.
That's great.
And yeah, I mean, it's pretty still incredible because, 9 hours, come on. It's a lot of time.
Definitely.
And one thing I wanted to note, as far as battery, I actually figured out what the battery usage is of using Netflix on Wi-Fi. And basically that'll you get 5 hours of Netflix on Wi-Fi is to my testing. Each hour I used it drained it by, I forget whatever percent it was, but it drained it by such a percent that within 5 hours it would be dead. To my
So
testing.
like 20%.
Yeah. To my testing, that was, I might be wrong in how I did that, but that's what I got out of the testing there.
Okay.
It was pretty consistent between the percentages, which is good to know. And a couple other things to note about the iPad 3G. The whole iPad is basically a big, receiver. They've got 5 antennas built in here, so it should give you a pretty good signal. I've heard it's the same as the iPhone 3GS, but the back is basically a big receiver, is what I've heard from people that have dissected it, iFixit.com and all those places. And another cool thing I just found out today, for those that want to replace that micro SIM for whatever reason, if they lost it or are trying to do some different things with it, you can get a replacement iPad SIM card, the micro SIMs, for $15 on AT&T's website. I'm not sure if you can get those in the stores, but $15 and you get a replacement micro SIM. So some people might try to activate it and use it on iPhones, I don't know, but you're able to get those replacements.
Well, that's good. I mean, that sometimes is one of the issues with trying to resell something that uses a SIM
Right.
card to somebody else is needing a new SIM card. So.
Right. And I know with the regular SIM cards, you can just go into any AT&T store and they've got gobs of them. You just ask for one, they'll give you one. But I guess with the micro SIM, it's a new technology. It does cost money to get them replaced. And right along lines with the SIM cards, T-Mobile, if you get a T-Mobile card that has SMS part of the plan, you're able to send SMS messages out of it if you're someone that's a jailbreaker, I guess, or basically someone did this, sent an SMS out of the iPad with a T-Mobile card because it was jailbroken and they were doing some terminal command. I'm not sure how it all went down, but it is possible.
Well, there are a couple of apps that do something like SMS, I think, available.
Yeah, there are. There's some pseudo SMS messages apps.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I actually use, I send SMS out of my Wi-Fi model iPad all the time. I use Google Voice to do that, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm a Google Voice user, and that's something that I get free SMS messages, and I do that through the web browser, and it works great.
So, and it's interesting. I mean, as far as I know, Apple said when they announced the iPad that it was unlocked. So
Yeah,
if
it is.
if T-Mobile starts putting out micro SIMs, then you can certainly have it on T-Mobile. I don't know what their data plan would cost, but
Yeah, it's kind of curious if they would come out with a reasonably priced data plan designed for the iPad. That could be a competitor to it. I mean, I know but the 3G, I guess, they have different tower signals or something. So it just works with Edge, to my knowledge. They'd have to change over their frequencies. That's why the Nexus 1, they need an AT&T special model for that.
oh, okay.
So it does work with
thought
Edge. Yeah.
I thought the iPad covered all the 3G signals, but
It didn't. I guess T-Mobile uses a weird one, a non-standard frequency.
Yeah.
But it has been reported to work with Bell in Canada and some overseas Europe countries as well. And it is completely unlocked. And I discovered this this unlocking thing when I was testing out the SIM card of this iPad. So I've got this little adapter here that you can put a micro SIM into. And I wanted to see if I could use this on different devices. I have a MiFi, which is unlocked, and I've got two iPhones, the 2G and the 3G. And as I discovered, the iPhone is locked, meaning I could not use my iPad SIM card in there for just a data plan with the iPhone. So I'm going to test it later when I unlock my 2G iPhone and see what happens. I know when I tried to do that earlier, as I talked about on the Friday show, it just simply would not work at all with it.
well, we'll look forward to your results of your little test there.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it because I think it'd be kind of cool. I know this isn't official or supported or wanted by AT&T, but being able to just move that SIM card in between devices and whatever use case you need, you're able to do that with that one SIM card, whether it be MiFi or iPhone or iPad. And so we'll see how that goes. And of course, it's not officially supported by. It's actually probably against some terms of agreement, but I just wanted to test it out as a scientist more than anything. Let's see some other quick notes. Netflix. I just wanted to go over some good use cases, I think, for the iPad 3G. Why would you want an iPad 3G over the Wi-Fi model? And the first one is obviously you have internet everywhere. But what compels you to do this? Okay, the first one I thought of was Netflix on the road. Now, I was thinking when I was younger, we had this van with the VHS player and the TV set, and we watched videos that way. I could see in the future, you just grab an iPad, throw it in the back seat, and tell your kids to watch a movie over Netflix 3G, and if you're in a good area, you could do that.
Yep, definitely. It'd be certainly something to consider, and probably a little bit. There's so many of these minivans now and different types of cars that have these things built in, but it's always seemed like a waste because how much time is it actually used? I guess some people may use it a lot. We're going to the store, get in the back and watch your cartoon.
Yeah, I see that all the time. People are just driving around Indianapolis and what are they watching videos for? Talk to your kids.
Yeah, but it is allow you to be more general purpose, not have a screen there that's got one sole purpose.
Yeah, exactly. And let's see, another use case I thought I'd show off. I wanted to talk about TomTom. They haven't updated it for the iPad 3G yet, but I wanted to show you what it's like. So the iPad, by TomTom standards, is considered to be an iPod. So it gets kind of annoying as it asks you to connect to GPS. And it also, as you use it, will ask you to connect to GPS. Even when you have a great GPS signal, it doesn't have one now, evidently. But as I was driving around outside, it went from this to as it is now. I've got a good GPS signal. And as you'll see, it says connected GPS, even though I've got GPS inside. So that's kind of the fault of using some GPS apps with the iPad. I guess some apps see it as an iPod Touch without GPS. So that's kind of a pitfall of that. But it still works really great. And you could use this as a big TomTom app if you wanted to, and that would work pretty well, I would think, if you found a good mount for it.
Yeah, I actually have a competing app called Navigon on my iPhone, and I'm certainly looking forward to using the iPad 3G as a navigation device. So much larger and better than the little iPhone.
Yeah, and the GPS on the iPad is a lot better than I've experienced on either the iPod Touch with that TomTom receiver or even the iPhone 3G. And I've heard from people that have the 3GS, it's even a better signal than the 3GS. I guess they've upgraded the GPS chip inside, and you actually get much more accurate results, which is kind of big when you're driving around or even doing other things with GPS.
Yeah, and obviously there's potentially they've put in better, larger antennas or things like that. So.
They have more room for it, right?
Yep.
And GPS is huge for me because I could see this. I like the geocache. I haven't done it in a while since it's been winter and I did not go outside as much. But now it's beginning to be summertime again. I'm a geocacher, which means it's basically a treasure hunt worldwide. You find little items, and they've got a big community with this. And I'm really looking forward to a geocaching app that uses that GPS chip, and with the iPad 3G, you have the possibility of using this as a really fantastic app and device to track down those caches. Yeah,
absolutely. I have a good friend that's a geocacher and uses his iPhone extensively for that. But the iPad looks like be a great thing.
Yeah. The battery alone will greatly enhance that experience because I know for myself, I had to have a pretty hefty battery attached to my iPhone when I geocache because the GPS chip's running all the time, and it really drains it really quickly. So I'd actually be able to go out and about without a battery attached to my iPhone.
Yeah, although you will have a little bit different. I don't know how much hiking and climbing you have
You
to
need
do
to
for
get a rugged
geocaching,
case.
but yeah, you're going to need a little bit different type of case for that. So,
Yeah.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah, that would be the downside. I mean, but people use backpacks, I guess, when they're doing stuff. But I don't know. We'll see how that goes. Another use case I thought would be iTeleport or VNC apps on the road would be incredibly useful. Something that you wouldn't really use with the iPad Wi-Fi, since a lot of the times you'll be in the same room as your computer. But with the 3G, you're expected to take it out more and things like that. And I think VNC apps will be huge with 3G iPads.
Yeah, I think that'll be a. Well, you've experienced it, and I have yet to do that, but it's such a natural for that.
Yeah, exactly. The next thing, I had this crazy idea that if you have an iPad 3G, if you're a price-conscious person, which I'm not sure how many iPad, iPhone owners are that way, but I could see the iPhone not being necessary to have service on anymore, and using the iPad for your mobile broadband and internet, and switching over to one of those quote-unquote dumb phones that are just there for calling and texting or whatever, and perhaps using an iPod Touch as your mobile unit for that kind of stuff. And what do you think about that possibility for those that are price-conscious doing that?
Well, I actually thought about this for myself, and I just don't want to give up an iPhone, because I still think there will be, even with a 3G iPad, there will still be a number of times where I'm not going to take something that big with me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I'm going to be somewhere, and I'm going to say, not, oh, I need to call somebody, but
I need
why don't I need to look this up? Or, I need to find some information about something. And the iPhone is just so dang handy for that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Granted, I would, if I had the iPad, I'd use that over the iPhone, but there will still be cases where I won't have the iPad.
Yeah, sure. I agree with you as well.
And I'm just not willing to give up the benefits of the iPhone for a dumb phone.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
But I'm not as cost conscious as some.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, for those,
although I don't own 2 iPads currently, but I am not as cost conscious as some.
Yeah, I could see. I mean, high school kids, I could see having, if they can't afford a smartphone plan, just getting an iPad 3G for $15 a month. I think high school.
Well, I tell you, anybody who doesn't have an iPhone or an smartphone right now, certainly getting an iPad 3G would probably eliminate 99% of the reason for getting a smartphone.
Right. Yeah, I could see that definitely.
Yep.
And another interesting thing is you need to use some sort of card, I guess, to buy an iPad until at least the international ship out. They're obviously limiting how many you buy, and they're tracking that via your name on credit cards. So I guess right now even younger people can't buy them, which is a counter.
Too bad.
Yeah. Let's see. What else did I
meant to ask you. You said you were in the Apple Store yesterday.
Yeah, sure.
So how readily were 3G iPads in the store to purchase?
I was seeing people buying them. It didn't look like they had a problem of supply. I'm guessing they're supplying the stores really heavily with them so people can buy them. And I've found this out to be true with the online store. They'll delay shipments just because they're pushing so many out to the stores. Mm-hmm. So I don't think you'll have a problem depending where you're at. I'm in Indianapolis, so I mean, it's not the biggest city in the world, but it's not small by any means. There were no Apple cases there when I went, so they were still out of those. And so I think accessories are probably harder to come by now than the actual iPads. Well,
that's good to hear, because I'm going to be going for a 3G one here shortly. So
awesome. And then the final thing I want to talk about is just the micro SIM. I just want to mention, as I did Friday, it does work on any unlocked device. So even unlock Nexus 1, for instance, I would imagine if you get an adapter, you could use that for data. I've never tested this, but that'd be kind of a cool thing to do. and also works in the MiFi 2372 really well. And so it is kind of cool. This micro SIM is much smaller, and it's interesting that they use this for an iPad, which is not small by any means compared to a phone. So that was the last thing I want to talk about, the 3G on the iPad. And did you have any other questions or things you wanted to ask about the 3G model?
No, I think we've covered it pretty well. And, there'll obviously be, as you have more time with yours, and hopefully I will have one soon, then we'll have more information for the folks.
Yep, absolutely. And if you have questions about the iPad 3G, feel free to send those along to iPadPossibilities@gmail.com or 219-542-iPad, and I'd love to answer your questions about it. It is pretty much a brand new device, so there may be a lot of questions that we haven't answered yet.
Great.
And moving on from that, I'd like to kind of close up the show with our picks of the week. So, John, do you have any picks that you've found this week that are kind of cool?
Yeah, I wasn't around last week, so there's a couple of this apps I use all the time that I wanted to bring up. One is 1Password. It's actually 1Password Pro, and the beauty of this is it works for both the iPhone and the iPad. And I've been a user of 1Password on the Mac for a long time. 1Password on the iPhone and now on the iPad. And if you need to keep passwords and now even serial numbers and stuff like that, I can't recommend this thing highly enough.
Yeah, I love it as well.
And one thing, I think I mentioned a few times, I come from kind of a security background, and so one thing I would say is that this thing allows you to get random passwords, which are the best passwords to deal with for any of your websites. And all you have to do is remember your one password to get into this app, and nobody's going to break into your stuff. Or if they happen to get a password for one website, if you're of the habit of using a different password on different websites because of a tool like this that allows you to do that easily.
Yeah.
They don't get everything that you have. If they get into your Facebook, they're not going to get into your LinkedIn or your Google accounts, or vice versa. So just a very cool app.
Awesome. Yeah, and I rely on this app every day just because I use it on the Mac, I use it on the iPhone, and it just all works really well. So
another one quickly is, and I've mentioned before on the show, is WritePad for the iPad, which I love for handwriting recognition. It's a great app.
Yeah, actually, I have this as well, and I've got to stop. I actually did a review on some styluses for the podcast app, and there's a couple different styluses that work really well for it. This is the Dagi stylus, which is kind of a new idea. See this red dye, you can actually write with this, and it works pretty well. Yeah, I mean, WritePad's a fantastic app that, it recognizes handwriting really well. I'll have to learn how to use it better myself, but I have it installed, and I like it as well.
Right. And then one last one I'll mention is SmartNote.
Okay, I've not heard of this one.
Yeah, SmartNote is it's a notepad. It allows you to do a variety of things, including you can do recordings, you can do freehand, lines, drawing on it, as well as type text. And you can also embed web pages into your notes, which is kind of the coolest thing.
Handy, yeah.
Yeah. So
do they do that through? They have a built-in web browser that you.
Yeah, you actually kind of like insert a web browser on your page. Can use it to find what you want, and then you can freeze it, and it will kind of like clip that
cool
view of the browser. So there's a few things that are not super great on it. It's, I think, written by a couple of college guys, and is still, it's still an evolving thing. So, but it's not very expensive. I forget what it was.
It's 99 cents.
Yeah, I would recommend it be a well 99 cents to play around with. So
Well, awesome.
that's what I have for today.
Cool. I've not heard that last one. I'll have to try it out sometime later here. I had a couple different picks I want to talk about. Some hardware, some non-hardware ones, some software, of course. The first one I heard about today from Steve, who does the iPad show. I do listen to that one. And he's talking about an app called Atomic Browser. And I got this today, and I really enjoy it. For those that haven't played around with it, it basically gives you, this is the AT&T MicroSim page here for replacing that. But it gives you the ability to do tabbed browsing. So if you just click on this upper corner here, you have different tabs. So let me pull up the iPad Mac forums. And it's loading here, and you're able to browse your previous page you had there. While that's loading, it's still loading in the top corner there. And you can see when it's done. And you can just switch over there, and it's instantly there. And if you just switch over to your first page, it's right there. There's no lag time, and you can do a bunch of different web browsing pages at the same time, and just switch instantly between the two. And unlike Safari, where you have that big cache that clears every once in a while, you can load a bunch of pages, and they're all remembering where they're at. So that's a kind of a huge plus. It gives you a speedy web experience, unlike the Safari built-in browser. So that was a very cool find that I'm going to be starting to use more and more as my, hopefully, main web browser for a lot of different things.
Yeah, that sounds really great. I know there's a bunch of browsers that will offer 2 windows and.
Yep, I also have Browser Duo that does that, but
yeah,
Atomic Web
this seems like something more, natural to do with a browser is tab browsing as opposed to just 2 windows.
Yeah, the 2 windows I think is great if you want to stream video out of one and surf the web on the other, but outside of that, I don't really see a good use case for it.
Yeah.
And let's see, what else? I talked about Speakeasy 2. It's an iPhone app. I use this to record the shows, and I found this to be the best recording app on the iPad now, because it does upscale really nicely. As you can see, this is an iPhone app, but they've done it really nicely. And what you do is, it is aware completely of the iPad's orientation. So if you start up, you just type in a new recording name, and you can have different categories. So I've got TIS, which is one of the podcasts they're talking about. And you just click, you can change the audio quality here very simply. And you just hit this button here, and it's going to start the record. And when you're in recording mode, you can just simply switch over to the horizontal mode and record and see all the levels and all those things from here. But the thing that just shocked me was this is an iPhone app that upscales very beautifully to the iPad. And I don't normally do this with this show, but demonstrate iPhone apps, but it works really well. You can continue where you left off, as I just did now. And it's just a great audio recording app. And until there's some iPad special apps that work well with this, I'd recommend Speakeasy 2. And it works really well. It worked with the USB mic really well at that same time. And kind of going along with that, I'm going to also recommend.
Tim, how do you know what Speakeasy 2 costs?
Sure, it's $2.99, I believe. And it worked really well. You can export the audio via the web, via Safari, as a lot of the different things apps are doing these days. And right along with that pick, I'd also like to recommend the iPad Camera Connection Kit. And these are the 2 dongles that you get with it. One, as you can see, is for the SD card, and one is for USB. And this is the real magical one here of the 2. And I'd recommend this just for this dongle alone, because this dongle enables you to get USB audio in and out of the iPad, as well as something I'd like to call endless. This one here is very valuable as well, because it gives you the ability to have, say you have a 16 gigabyte iPad. Now say you want to have endless video storage, not available through wireless, but through SD cards. So if you encode your video and have a bunch of different SD cards, you can simply import and delete different videos to make room for new videos, and you'll basically have endless storage of videos because of this little adapter here. So that's one of my picks, the iPad camera connection kit. It's one of the most useful accessories you'll ever find for the iPad because it does so much.
So Tim, just to clarify your idea about the endless videos. So what somebody would have to do was they actually move the video to the iPad to play it, but
right.
But just having a bunch of cards with different videos, like loading up from a old time floppy disk or something to play it, and just delete what you're finished with and make room for something new.
Exactly. Yeah. So you just if you have say 2 to 3 gigs, whatever the largest size of the video you're trying to load onto the iPad, just have that empty space on the iPad, load it up when you're done watching it, delete it, and you can load up something else from a different SD card. So that kind of creates that endless storage solution for videos that you might need. And of course, the iPad camera connection kit also works with cameras to import videos and photos as it was originally designed, but I will be using that less than the other hidden features of the kit. And it also works with the iPhone as well as a camera, so you can import videos and photos from your iPhone as well.
Does it work with audio on the iPhone?
I have not tried that as far as using it as a mic.
Yeah, USB mic.
I have not tried that. Let's do a little live demo here and see if this will work. I doubt it will. Let's see what happens though. Actually, I know it won't work because it'll be recognized as a camera, not a mic.
Okay.
So yeah, that won't work, unfortunately. I did test this the iPad camera connection kit with iPod Touch on 4.0, and it worked with Beta 1 to do the USB mic input, and Beta 2 broke that, so it's unsure if it will be available for the iPod Touch. I think Apple's still deciding that right now.
Okay.
So let's see. I had one last pick, and this one might be a no-brainer for a lot of people, but it's called Backgrounds. And I use this to find all my backgrounds I use with my iPad. It's very basic. Backgrounds HD. I think it's a free app, but it just gives you the option to find a lot of just beautiful backgrounds you can use with your iPad. And they're updated all the time with new images that come out by users. And I use it now. I use this background here I have on my iPad is from that app, as well as this background is from that app as well. So I switch out my background pretty frequently to change it up a bit, and that's a great app to do that. And those were my picks of the week. And with that said, do you have any other closing thoughts you want to add, John?
No, I think we've covered quite a bit tonight, and we'll continue to search out new possibilities for everyone.
Yep, absolutely. Well, I just want to close out this show by thanking you, John, to be on it with me and discuss these things on the iPad 3G.
My pleasure.
And where can people find you, John, if they want some more information about what you're doing, what you're up to?
Just look for John Finnan on the Twitters, and that's probably the best place to look for me.
Okay, awesome. Well, as always, we do appreciate your feedback on the show. Any questions you have, comments, things like that, I'd really appreciate that if you just send that to iPadPossibilities@gmail.com and 209-542-iPad. I'd really appreciate any feedback you can send. If you'd like to find out more information on this show and other shows, just go to thepossibilitiesnetwork.com and you'll find out all the information you need to there. And we're doing a bit of a revamp this upcoming week. We'll be switching over a bunch of the shows to a paid version at a very low cost. We're looking at probably about $2 for an individual show, down from $10. We're going to be moving that down so more people can access all the shows and do that. So be looking for some updates there, and we'll be moving forward with Possibilities Network. In that regard, we're it'll be more accessible to more people. So just go there for more information on that. And if you'd like to support this show, you can do that in one of a few different ways. First off, just iTunes, as I said, just simply take the time to review the show. It's really a big help to this show and bringing the visibility up there. And monetarily, if you'd like to support the show, you can do that in the iTunes App Store by purchasing the iPad Possibilities Podcast app for $2.99. And with that app, you get the shows 24 hours in advance, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And you also get special video episodes. We did a stylist review earlier, and there's some other episodes coming out pretty soon. And that's $2.99 in the App Store. And the other way is to become a member of the Premium Podcast. It is currently $10, but it is going to be lowered in price, so that's changing very soon. Only $2 a month for the premium show. And with that show, you get the shows Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You get extra audio shows, extra video shows, and a bunch of other things. So just go to thepossibilitiesnetwork.com to find out all the information there on that. And that will be changing over probably tonight or tomorrow to the $2 price. And I decided to do that because as I'm looking at the content coming out, Hulu will be doing $10 a month, and I want to make it more affordable so pretty much anyone can access the premium show and support the show that are limited by funds. So I wanted to do that, and that's being changed this week. So I hope you all can enjoy that show that way. And until, I guess it'll be Wednesday or Thursday, depending on how you get the show, this is Tim Chan of the iPad Possibilities Podcast, and we will speak again then. Have a great night. Bye.